Stress in school isn't character building, it's leading to widespread burnout. Instead of resilience, students are learning exhaustion with the constant pressure leaving them mentally and physically drained. This epidemic is a direct result of an overemphasis on productivity at the expense of well-being. The system needs to acknowledge this crisis before it becomes irreversible. Anxiety crisis. The overwhelming pressure to handle everything is driving students to anxiety and exhaustion. Balancing academics, extracurriculars, and social life creates a relentless stress that many can't escape. Instead of fostering growth, this pressure is leading to mental health issues that students carry into adulthood. It's a crisis that's often overlooked but needs urgent attention. Grade tyranny. Grades shouldn't define self-worth, but they often do, creating a cycle of fear and anxiety. This obsession with grades turns learning into a competition rather than a journey of discovery. Students end up valuing numbers over knowledge, losing sight of the true purpose of education. It's time to rethink how we evaluate success in schools. Degree myth. No longer guarantees success. It often guarantees debt. The promise that higher education will lead to a secure job is increasingly becoming a myth. Many graduates find themselves underemployed and overwhelmed by student loans. We need to reevaluate the real value of a degree in today's world. Path lockdown. Choosing a career path too early limits exploration and future adaptability. Schools push students into deciding their futures when they're barely old enough to understand themselves. This rigid approach stifles curiosity and blocks out opportunities for personal growth. Life isn't a straight line, and education should reflect that flexibility. Non-traditional wins. Traditional paths aren't the only way to success. Unconventional routes are thriving. Many successful people didn't follow the typical academic path, proving that there are multiple roads to success. Schools often ignore or undervalue these alternative routes, limiting students' potential. It's time to celebrate and encourage diverse pathways. Inequality trap. Equal chance at success. Systemic inequalities in schools say otherwise. From underfunded schools to biased testing, the system favors those who are already advantaged. This perpetuates cycles of inequality, making it harder for marginalized students to succeed. True educational reform must address these deep-rooted disparities. Real-world gap. Schools teach knowledge, not real-world skills, leaving students unprepared. There's a glaring gap between what's taught in classrooms and what's needed in life. Financial literacy, practical problem-solving, and emotional intelligence are often overlooked. This disconnect leaves students ill-equipped to navigate adulthood. Creativity suppression. Conformity is rewarded over creativity, stifling innovation and risk-taking. Schools often prioritize obedience and adherence to rules, discouraging out-of-the-box thinking. This suppression of creativity hampers students' ability to innovate and solve complex problems. We need an education system that nurtures, rather than stifles, creative minds. Identity loss. The pressure to fit in socially destroys individuality and self-expression. In the quest to belong, students often sacrifice their unique identities, leading to a loss of self. Schools should be a place where diversity of thought and expression is celebrated, not suppressed. It's crucial to foster environments where students feel free to be themselves. Popularity deception. Popularity is a false measure of worth, fueling insecurity and anxiety. The social hierarchies in schools often elevate superficial qualities over genuine character. This emphasis on popularity creates a toxic environment where self-esteem is tied to external validation. Students need to learn that true value lies within, not in social status. Multitasking myth. Multitasking isn't productive, it's a myth that decreases efficiency. The idea that doing multiple things at once saves time is a fallacy. In reality, it divides focus and reduces the quality of each task. Schools should teach the value of deep work and single tasking for better outcomes. Cramming failure. Cramming leads to short-term gains but long-term knowledge loss. The practice of cramming for exams may help students pass tests, but it doesn't foster true understanding. This method undermines the retention of information and the development of critical thinking skills. Education should focus on depth, not just immediate results. Memory overload. Forced memorization replaces critical thinking, leaving no room for understanding. Students are often required to memorize facts without grasping their broader significance. This approach undermines the development of analytical skills and real comprehension. We need to shift from rote learning to fostering true intellectual engagement. Career flexibility. You don't have to know your career at 16. Most people change paths multiple times. The pressure to decide on a career early is unrealistic and limiting. As people grow and evolve, so do their interests and skills, leading to natural shifts in career paths. Schools should encourage exploration and adaptability rather than rigid decision-making. Fatigue ignored. Everyone tells you to push through fatigue, but it's destroying mental health. The grind culture in schools promotes the idea that rest is for the weak. This mindset contributes to burnout and long-term mental health issues. It's essential to prioritize well-being over relentless productivity. Critical thinking. Obedience in school is prioritized over critical thinking, hindering real progress. The focus on following rules and regurgitating information stifles intellectual curiosity. Critical thinking, the cornerstone of innovation, is often neglected in favor of compliance. Education must shift to encourage questioning and independent thought. Social media stress. Social media pressures amplify school stress, creating unrealistic expectations. The curated lives seen online add to the stress students already face in school. This constant comparison can lead to anxiety and depression. It's crucial to educate students on the realities behind social media and encourage self-compassion. Financial illiteracy. Financial literacy isn't taught in school, leaving students unprepared for adulthood. Most students graduate without basic knowledge of budgeting, taxes, or managing debt. This gap leaves them vulnerable to financial pitfalls later in life. Incorporating financial education into the curriculum is essential for future independence. Rule breaking. School tells you to follow the rules. Life rewards those who break them creatively. The rigid structure of school can stifle innovation and discourage risk-taking. Yet many successful individuals achieve greatness by challenging the status quo. Education should inspire creative thinking and empower students to question norms. Test obsession. Standardized tests crush creativity and only measure rote memorization. The overemphasis on testing reduces education to a narrow focus on scores. This obsession neglects critical thinking, creativity, and real understanding. Schools need to move beyond standardized tests and embrace a more holistic approach to learning. Emotional neglect. Schools ignore emotional intelligence, leaving students unequipped for real-life challenges. Emotional skills are just as important as academic knowledge, yet they're often overlooked. Developing empathy, self-awareness, and resilience is crucial for personal and professional success. Education should prioritize emotional well-being alongside intellectual growth. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is weaponized, leading to conformity and stunted